Hello everyone, Jules here for Live and Let's Dice, and I have something very special for you beautiful people today because the lovely wonders over at Games Workshop have sent me over a little care package which included something that left me howling at the moon. It is, of course, the new Space Wolves Codex Supplement. Now, I've read all the lore, I've read all the strats, I've digested all of those beautiful deeds and sumptuous sagas, and I have some thoughts, most of them good, but some left me frothing at the mouth. Wondering what I'm on about? Well, let's have a chat, shall we? So first things first, let's address the elephant in the room, and that being, did you like Saga of the Beast? Well, I hope you had a good 7 months of it because it is completely gone now. When the new FAQ came out that was basically acting as an abridgment to between 8th and 9th for the Space Wolves, we got a load of new data sheets coming in, we got a lot of our relics taken away and all of our stratagems condensed down into what you see here on this image. And out of all of these ones here, only one has made it through into the new Codex Supplement. And it's left me feeling a little bit spicy, because the strats that were carried across from the Saga of the Beast, they improved our Terminators and they improved our Thunderwolf cavalry units. So everyone has amassed all of them and said, yes, this is going to be the way forward, especially with the new buffs. So what we did is we obviously grabbed all of our Terminators and our Thunderwolf cavalry because they got a big buff, moving up to 4 wounds apiece, and the Storm Shield now giving the +1 to their saves, meaning that technically they could ride into battle with a 2-up save and 4 wounds, which was pretty ridiculous. And with the strats, they would get the Crushing Assault, which meant that they could do mortal wounds on the charge, and the the bite that they could do, the Crushing Jaws and Fangs, they could do 2 damage instead of 1. That was much needed for that unit. But those strats have gone in this, and in their place there are some very useful tactics to allow you to outmaneuver your enemy and indeed still make sure that Space Wolves are pretty punchy in combat, but those 2 units especially have taken a bit of a blow, as well as losing the Touch of the Wild, our characters not being able to explode hits out on 4s. I understand that it was a very, very overpowered strat, but it was totally in keeping with what we were about. Still, it has gone, as has Knowledge of the Foe, which, to be honest, everyone was loving because of the fact that if you killed a character in melee with another character, you got a free CP. I mean, that was amazing. I can see why that has gone, though, because of the fact that in especially small games where you have a limited amount of CP, it did give you quite the advantage over your opponent if you went in there killing them and then were able to use a very powerful strat to finish off the rest. Still, it's sad to see it go. In its place, though, we do get quite a lot of interesting strats, but I'll cover them in a minute. But first up, let's talk lore, because this supplement has updated a few things here. For example, the great companies have now got a little bit more information on how they play in battle, which means that if you ever wanted to build a great company that wasn't the Black Mains, even though that's the one that everyone seems to run just by default because of the cool color scheme and the fact that GW only sells those shoulder pads pretty much, you can play other factions within the great circle of RUSS now, which is great, and it gives you a little description on how they play in battle, which means that if you were building a thematic list around that, you'd know what to go for, which is pretty cool. But I really enjoyed the fact that they put a bit more detail into the Wolf Spear, which is the new Primaris-founded Space Wolf chapter. They've adopted all of the Space Wolves gimmicks, basically. They were just like the Primaris that were like, we have to pretend that we're Vikings now. Yeah, you know what, fine, whatever. They've done us a favor. They're going to send us reinforcements. We'll play dress up. I also enjoyed that they've put in a page showing you how to paint the shoulder pads and all the markings for the different great companies. So if you were looking to run a new list that wasn't Black Mains, then you have the opportunity to do so, and it shows you how they would look. But I know that you're all interested in learning about the new strats, and while I won't cover all of them here, I will show you some of my favorites. For example, let's talk about Go for the Throat. So for 2 CP, you can use this stratagem in your command phase if the Assault Doctrine is active for your army. Until your next command phase, each time a Space Wolf model from your army makes an attack with a pistol or melee weapon on an unmodified wound roll of 6, improve the AP of that attack by 1. And it is cumulative with the combat doctrines. Now, there's a reason why you can only use this once per battle, because think about it. If you've already got the -1 AP that's going on because of the fact that you're in the Assault Doctrine on, say, a Thunderhammer, which puts it obviously to -3, with this, you can push that to a -4. Nothing will stand in your way, so if you've basically got a tough tank that you want to just finish off in style, this is definitely the strat to use. Or how about Savage Strike, which is basically our version of Veterans of the Long War in combat, and you can use this stratagem in your fight phase when a Space Wolves unit from your army is selected to fight. If that unit made a charge move this turn, then until that fight is resolved, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, add 1 to that attack's wound roll. Add 1 to that attack's wound roll, and if the unit has 5 or fewer models, it costs 1 CP, otherwise it's 2 CP. And this is brilliant for one reason, well, 2 actually, because of the fact that you obviously get +1 to your wound roll, which in this game is utterly brilliant, but it's because of the fact it says when this fight resolves. Not until the end of the battle round, not until the end of the phase, if you're locked in combat with them, you are going to get that +1 to your wound roll. So if you go in against a tough opponent and pop it early, you are going to have a grand old time, and in fact, it might be a much shorter one as a result. Another good one is Pack Hunters. It's quite pricey for 2 CP, but it's got some very interesting features. Use this stratagem in your charge phase. Select one enemy unit within engagement range of any Space Wolves unit from your army, and until the end of the turn, each time a friendly Space Wolves Beast or Space Wolves Cavalry unit declares a charge that targets the selected unit, roll 1 additional d6 and discard 1 of the dice. Until the end of that turn, each time a friendly Space Wolves Cavalry model makes an attack with its crushing teeth and claws against the selected unit, and each time a friendly Space Wolves Beast model makes an attack with its teeth and claws, you can re-roll the wound roll. Now, we obviously lost the strat that pushed up the damage from the teeth and claws to 2, but we do get this instead. And I think that this is actually possibly much more useful. Like I said, it is a bit pricey for 2 CP, but think about it this way. Incursors, which are one of my favourite units hands down because of the fact they've got the Haywire Mind that means enemies, when they charge, they stand a risk of getting D3 mortal wounds to them just on them coming towards you. Now you can make them pull double duty. If you plant them on an objective just far up enough and bait in a charge, then you can get your Thunderwolf Cavalry straight at the board with 3d6 and make that charge do some damage. I think that it's absolutely brilliant, and obviously getting to re-roll the wound roll, while it doesn't make up for damage being 1 instead of 2, it's still very useful to have. So yeah, I'm a bit bitter that we've lost that damage output, but I am pretty happy that we've got this in its place. Now here's an interesting one, Bestial Nature. Use this stratagem in your command phase if a combat doctrine is active for your army. Select one Space Wolves infantry, cavalry, or biker unit from your army, and until the next command phase, that unit gains the bonus of the assault doctrine instead of the active combat doctrine. Now, I don't need to tell you why we always want to be in the Assault Doctrine, so being able to pop that whenever we please for 1 CP is pretty goddamn useful indeed. Basically, if any fight that you're in, you are going to get the upper hand with obviously your exploding 6s and your extra AP on your pistol and your melee weapon attacks. Lovely stuff. But the one that I'm most relieved to see is definitely Keen Senses. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase, select one Space Wolves infantry, biker, or cavalry unit, and until the end of the turn you can ignore any or all hit roll, ballistic skill, and weapon skill modifiers, and each time that you make a charge roll for that unit, you can ignore any or all modifiers to that charge roll. Now, being able to negate any to hit rolls with the shooting is definitely very important, especially in 9th edition where you've got tons of terrain and obviously enemy units that can give you -1s to hit anyway. This is going to negate all of that, and when you put it with some long fangs who can now obviously shoot with ballistic skill 2 by using the Signum ability, that is utterly delicious. Plus, I really like the fact that you can put it onto a different unit. You're almost encouraged to not just use it for long fangs, put it onto a unit that's about to make a charge, and then basically you get no modifiers to going against that either, meaning that you can go straight over difficult terrain and straight into the face of your enemy. Now, when the Space Marines Codex came out, a lot of people were worried about how we were being rolled into that. A lot of chapters were, to be fair, especially when we got to see that our Warlord trait was just 1, if there was the Beast Slayer one, and everyone was like, yeah, it's pretty good, but we would like a bit more choice. Luckily, we get 6 to choose from now, and especially they are made even better by the fact that our sagas are back again. Yes, that's right. Whatever Warlord trait we choose comes with a saga. If we complete an activity or a certain action on the battlefield, it becomes an aura, and some of these auras, I don't want to say they're overpowered, but my god, some of them are brilliant. So let's take a look at 2 Warlord traits that I really enjoy and then look at their sagas as well. So let's take a look at Hunter for a start. Add 1 to the advance and charge rolls made for this Warlord. This Warlord is eligible to charge in a turn in which it advanced or fell back. Everyone loves being able to get extra distance, so that is an absolute plus. And if we move over to its saga, we can see that if this model successfully makes a charge against an enemy model, you can see that it turns into a 6-inch aura that allows Space Wolf's core units to advance and charge in the same turn. And if they have Swift Hunters as an ability as well and are within 6 inches of this model, they can declare a charge in a turn that they fell back. But if speed isn't your thing and you just want to get stuck into battle and make sure that you go lol no, it's definitely Warrior Born that you want. Because at the start of the fight phase, if this Warlord is within engagement range of any enemy units, it can fight first that phase. Yes please, that is absolutely brilliant, but it only gets better because if an enemy character model is destroyed as the result of a melee attack made by this model, then at the start of the fight phase, each friendly Space Wolf's core unit that is within 6 inches of this model and within engagement range of an enemy fights first that phase. So if you get your Warlord and his bodyguard into combat and it has this ability, you're pretty much guaranteed to always fight first forever. Brilliant. But if that wasn't enough, let's take a trip to the Fang and take a look at the relics because I can't believe it. The Armor of RUSS is back and it's even better. Now with the Armor of RUSS, you get a basic save of 2-up and a 4-up invulnerable save. That is already a big buff, and at the start of the fight phase, you can select 1 enemy unit that is within engagement range of the bearer, and that unit is not eligible to fight this phase until after all eligible units from your army have done so. And that wording is utterly brilliant because it's not just a case of I fight first, it is a case of you fight last, which means that if other people can come in, they can interrupt, and if you've got another ability that allows you to fight before then sorry pal, looks like you're dead. Plus a special shout out to the new relic Fireheart, which is a one-shot 18-inch range pistol with strength 9, AP -4 and a flat 3 damage. This one is guaranteed to see some use just because of how utterly brilliant it is. Imagine, by the way, when this gets to the Assault Doctrine. That's going to be at -5. Now onto our spells, and I'm really happy with the first 2 that we get, Living Lightning and Murderous Hurricane. Now both of these were a firm staple in my previous list just because they're utterly brilliant, but now they're even better, because Living Lightning before, it used to only jump off and do extra mortal wounds if it destroyed the enemy unit that it was targeting. Now you just roll a dice and it will jump over anyway, and the best thing is, it'll do 1 mortal wound on a 2 to 4, but if you get a 5-up, it's a D3 mortal wound. That is utterly brilliant. So you just go smite, chain it in with Living Lightning, and away you go. But possibly Murderous Hurricane is even better. In the previous edition, Murderous Hurricane was basically like a roll some dice and on every 6 you take a mortal wound. It's, fine, it was good against hordes, but not much else. Here, you can shut enemy units down because what it does is it denies them Overwatch, and better yet, it means that if it goes off on that unit, they don't get to fight until every other unit already has done. So yeah, you're starting to see how you can chain that together for some pretty brutal and very efficient combat. I thought so. We also get a new spell which is called Instincts Awoken, which on a charge value of 6 means that you can nominate a unit that is within 18 inches of this Psyker, and the Assault Doctrine is considered to be active for their attacks instead of the currently active Doctrine. But if you already have the Assault Doctrine active, then on an unmodified wound roll of 6, improve the armor penetration of that attack by 1. Again, meaning that those Thunderhammers are now AP -4. Brutal. I know, my head is spinning already, but let's talk about how we're actually going to win the game, because admittedly, while it is going to be very, very fun to jump into combat and absolutely smash the ever-living hell out of everything, we need to make sure that we're scoring victory points as well. Hence why we have some new secondary objectives, and they are utterly brilliant. Take, for example, Glory Kills. If you select this objective, you score victory points as follows. You score 2 victory points if any character units were destroyed by a Space Wolves unit from your army during the battle round, and if no character units were destroyed but a character suffered 3 or more wounds, then you score 1 victory point instead. And you can score 3 victory points if any monster units were destroyed by a Space Wolves unit during this battle round, and if no monster was slain but they took 3 wounds, you get 1 victory point instead. Now this is great because you're always going to be wanting to character hunt with Space Wolves anyway. That's what we do best, putting pressure onto the enemy's HQ, and now we're getting rewarded for that fact. And plus, if there's a big old monster in the battlefield, we're not going to be running away anymore, we're just going to be going, yeah, I want that, because if I kill you, I get bragging rights and victory points. But the best one, hands down, has to be Warrior Pride. Score 3 victory points at the end of your turn if 2 or more Space Wolves units from your army are within engagement range of any enemy units or have completed a charge move this turn. Now this is utterly incredible because we're always going to try to be in combat and we're always going to have multiple units engaged with enemies, so that seems like a pretty easy one that we're always going to take. Yes, it might be a little bit harder to max out, seeing as you definitely will need that turn 1 charge, but we're Space Wolves. That's what we do. Now I'll talk briefly on the Space Wolves Crusade options because there are obviously quite a fair few and our agendas, again, are deliciously silly. Take, for example, an Audacious Boast. So what you do with this secret agenda is select one Space Wolves character from your army and then select 1 or more boasts from the list below. I won't read them all out because my throat is dying right now, but as you can see here, there's a lot to choose from. And at the end of the battle, if the selected character has achieved all of the selected boasts that you've made, that unit gains a number of experience points equal to the number of boasts selected. Now I love this because Space Wolves are meant to be headstrong, prideful, and quite full of themselves, so I can imagine you standing there going like, I reckon I can take that down, I reckon I can kill that this round, and I reckon I can slay this guy before he even gets a chance to finish his coffee. And if you do all of them, well, not only do you get bragging rights now, but you level your guy up even more, so make him even stronger. But quite interestingly, it definitely seems that every single supplement is going to really approach the concept of Crusade in a very different way, because Space Wolves, instead of just getting the random battle honors and just a few upgrades, we get deeds of making, and they are brilliant. So when a unit levels up enough to get a battle honor, instead of taking one of them, you can get a deed of making, and some of them are brilliant. They previewed one called Word Meat, or Weird Meat, however you want to pronounce it, which just says out of action tests for this model are passed automatically, which is just fantastic, so you never have to worry about losing XP with this character ever. Or how about Ironbrow, which is if you use the only in death does duty end stratagem, it costs 0 CP. Yes please. Or how about Keen Cleave, which says each time this model makes a melee attack against a vehicle unit, if the saving throw is failed, the target suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to normal damage. And think about this for a second. There was a Warlord trait that I didn't actually cover that allows you to, instead of your Shock Assault adding 1 extra attack, you can add D3. Imagine if you managed to get all of your attacks in and they failed a few of that on that vehicle, you're just doing mortal wounds out the wazoo. Brilliant. But my favourite, hands down, is all about the durability that is Scar Struck, which says each time a melee's attack is made against this model's unit, subtract 1 from that attack's wound roll. If you pop that on something that's toughness 5, you are making that incredibly difficult for your enemy to get through. I can see that being applied to the Wolfen quite a lot, or the Terminators. God, that'll be delicious. So in terms of the data sheets for the characters and other units you would find in a Space Wolves army, I'm not going to cover them because they are exactly the same as those shown in the FAQ. So if you haven't already, then you can go to Games Workshop's website, download that and peruse at your own leisure. But in terms of my final thoughts for the entire Space Wolves Codex Supplement, I'm genuinely really impressed. We were already a pretty strong army, maybe not like the competitive meta being right at the top, but thanks to this, we definitely stand a chance of making a very big dent in some tournaments. I am a bit sad to see that Saga of the Beast was the last to come out and then was completely forgotten within 7 months. That can't be denied. But some of the new strats, some of the new relics, some of the new ways in which we can expand our armies through the Crusade options, I think it's utterly brilliant. These make us feel thematic enough that we're not just basically Space Marines with a different colour palette. No, we have lots of fun options indeed. And what I like the most is that it's not just combat focused. What we have here are strats and abilities to make us move through the board very quickly, ignore terrain, get around cover our people with -1 to hit through Cloak of the Storm and things like that, and remove Overwatch, make people fight last, making sure that we are hitting when we hit to kill. It's not about just doing explosive amounts of damage and hoping for the best. Now it is like surgical strike. Every unit that we are targeting, we are aiming to take down in 1 turn. And I think that that very much sums up what it is to be a part of the Wolfpack. Swarming in, coming in from different angles using outflank and ripping the enemy apart and picking a new target. I feel that in the past, Space Wolves could be slowed down and swamped by tons of sort of boggy-ish enemies, but now we've got abilities to call in reinforcements, get those Thunderwolf cavalry units to support our boys at the front, jump back if we need to, score points by going and targeting the heavy-hitting enemies first and then mopping up everything else afterwards. So yeah, all in all, I'm more than excited to start playing with these new rules. I just need this bloody lockdown to end so I can go over to Beanies and play him. But yeah, those have been my thoughts on the new Space Wolves Codex Supplement. Let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below, as well as any other list you're thinking that you're building based on what I've shown you today. Are you excited about these new rules? Are you sad to see that things like the Saga of the Beast strats have gone? Let me know down below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter. You have been awesome. Never forget that. I'll speak to you soon.